I started working for an airline,
Okay.
American. I started working for American Airlines, and um, very, very, very humbling moment because working in the airlines for in Ohio, you want to talk about how cold it is on those cold days and cold nights, being outside with no trees blocking the wind, like below it's like -7 outside.
Mm,
You pulling out those bags and throwing them onto the plane, taking
mm,
them off.
mm.
It you definitely thought about your life on those days. Like, man, I know it got to be better. Something got to give. I know my life is better than this.
Yes.
And I tell you, it was those couple years wasn't. So I went from that job to working for Avis, and man, the people that run through that airport, you won't believe. Like, I ran into, and this is another one that actually changed my whole perspective because like I felt like nothing in my life was working, nothing, and I was just like, man, something got to give. And
Mm-hmm.
one day, it's funny. Dave Chappelle, this one of my coworkers was like, Dave Chappelle is in the airport, and I was like, for real? I was like, oh man, I was like, man, I would like to talk to him. And at the time, I didn't know how cool Dave Chappelle was, but he ended up walking down the hall, and I ended up seeing him. So I got up, and I was like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And you know how he got his smokes. He was like, yeah, what's up? And I was like, how did you get to where you are, and what does it take? What is it this? Because like I I want to do comedy, but I also love acting. So what your perspective, and what advice can you give me?
Mhm,
And
right.
he was like, well, I'm gonna tell you something. He put it in his mouth, he flicked it, and he was like, in life, he said, make all the mistakes that you can, because when you're famous, there you can't make no mistakes. And when he said that, it didn't register. It didn't register right off until 7 years ago,
Mm.
because you know you and see, like with me, it didn't register because I always made mistakes. Like, I felt like my whole life. That's all I've been doing. So I'm like, what do you mean? Because each mistake that I make, what I'm saying, doesn't do anything for me. But it registered later on, and then he said, if you're going to do stand up, do it every day, no matter what. You go in, get your reps in, and just do it. And he was like, when I come back into town, I want to know how you do. And I was
Wow.
like, all right. I walk back to my desk, and I'm like, he ain't gonna see me. He probably don't even remember who I was. The very like 2 months later, he gets off a plane. He walks past me. He had his cigarette, and he was like, "Did you go?" And I was like,
Wow. He remembers
"Yeah."
you.
He remembered me, and I was like, "Yeah, I went." And he was like, it scared the mess out of me. He was like, "Hey, keep going, don't quit."
Wow. This is amazing.
And I was like, "He remembered who I was." Wow. And then it made me want to do more research on him. And so I found out that he took theater classes to develop stage presence. And I was like, oh, theater classes. And I
Yes.
had that in I had that in the back of my head, but I was like, classes? That means I gotta go to school. Nope, I'm not doing it. Went right back,
PTSD.
started went right back to work, started doing my work thing. And one day, um, I I started hating my job, and I was just very, very frustrated, and like I just wanted to get to let go of everything. I really didn't care. I wanted to. I literally was
Yes.
like,
Yes.
I was like, God, I want to go home, you know.
Hmm.
And I cried and cried and cried, and I remember going to um going to my mailbox in my apartment. I was going to my mailbox, and a high school friend of mine showed up, and he was like, Fredo, what's up? And I was like, what's going on? And I started chopping it up with him. And he started talking about changing his life and going back to school and things like that. And I was like, yeah, well, so you go ahead and have fun with that. And he was like, well, can you do me a favor? I need to fill out my paperwork to get enrolled back into school. Can you take me? And I was like, yeah, I'll take you. But like, I was like, I'm gonna let you know this now. I'm not going to school with you, so don't ask me. He was
Yeah.
like, he was like, all right, I got you.
School was a trigger.
I took him to campus, and you know he was out for a couple of years. He was out for a couple of years. So, but everybody knew who he was. He was a very popular dude. Everybody knew who he was. He was doing all the paperwork, and then we went across the quad, and I saw a football field, and I was like, oh snap, y'all got football here, because it was a D3 school. And I was like, he was like, yeah, we got football. And he was like, you could play, right? And I was like, Jay, I'm not coming to this
Right.
school, bro. And he was like, bro, you can play. And I was like, I got to be recruited. How is he going to find me? And at that time I was 23. I was 22. I was 22 at the time. And he was like, dude, it's a D3 school. They take anybody. And I was like, really? He was like, I'm telling you. And I was like, man, you lying. So I walk with him. I go to walk with him to the sports department, because that's where his most of his studies is. And
Mhm.
he ran into the football coach, and he knew the football coach, and he was like, yeah, just want to let you know that you got somebody coming in next year. And he was like, oh yeah, we love to have you. And I looked at him and I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, we love to have you. And I was like, oh shoot. And I was like, so we walked away, and I was like, bro, where's the application at? So I went and filled out the application, and like maybe like a week or so later, the counselor called me and was like, hey, I heard you wanted to come to school, and just go ahead and send me your transcripts. And I knew it was a long shot, because this school is a liberal arts school, and your grades got to be here.
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
And he was like, so I sent him my transcripts from all schools. He was like, there's a lot of progress here, but what happened in math? What happened in English and all this type of stuff. He was like, in order to come to this school, you're gonna have to get your math up, and you're gonna have to get your reading and stuff up. And I was like, you know what? Never mind. I'm not even gonna do it. So I I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that, but I
Yeah,
am
so what
gonna
was the,
see.
oh, I'm sorry. No, I was about
Uh-huh.
to ask you, so what was the overall outcome of that?
The overall outcome, it took me 2 years to get into college.
Mm.
So it took me 2 years to get into college. And the funny thing about what actually made me go that route was, um, I got into I was trying to get recruited to go to the Air Force. And I took the ASVAB, and guess what? I needed math. So I need to
Mm.
get my math up. And I was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm not doing it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the community college, get my grades up, and I'm gonna go play football. And that's what made me change my decision. And it took me 2 years to actually get into school, because it was one class after another that he just kept telling me to do, and I just knew that I had to do it at that particular time, because that voice in my head from my sister, you got to do what you don't want to do. Think about the stuff that you don't want to do, but think about where you want to go. And that was it. I did it, and I got into school, and I actually got on the football team, and I started playing. And
Nice.
that and that was something that I knew that my life changed. And I remember the first day of practice, I was crying, and the coach was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, I got another chance on life. And he was like, "Yeah,"
Mm.
because like I was 24. I'm a 24-year-old freshman at a 4-year college with dorms and everything. I had a dorm. I left my job. I left my apartment.
Right.
I left all of that to actually
Right.
spend all 4 years of my life, saying, sharing a room with a person, and all that. And that's where I playing football, and then they had a theater program, and it was a decision to figure out what my major was going to be. And I thought about my dad because he's a pastor, and I was like, I should try that. But then I was like, no, I'm not my dad. I'm not him. I won't be like him. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do theater. And I did. We had there was an audition for the theater program, and the first time trying out auditioning, I sucked. But what the beauty of it was is that I knew improv. I was very, very
Right.
good at improv, and I was very, very quick. And they loved it, but I didn't get it. So, and I knew when it in certain areas in life when you go out for something and you don't get it, you be like, oh, it wasn't for me. Or you're gonna be like, what am I gonna do to get better?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
And
pressed on, be persistent.
and and that was the thing. So I went to the director and I was like, hey, what would it take for me to be better as to be on stage, to be casted? And he said you have a lot of natural abilities.
Mhm.
But I would say your reading, you know, your reading. Start developing, and start reading out loud and start doing it, and that's going to do it. So for the end of that semester, I actually took an acting class in Cincinnati, and when I tell you it was like night and day.
Mm.
I went from not being casted to being casted every semester
See?
in each thing,
Mhm.
and it was night and day. And the acting started to overshadow the football, and I kept getting hurt too. So what I'm saying, when
Right,
you
right.
like 20 at the age of 24, you're pretty much in football years, your grandpa.
Right, 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 you
So
retired. Mhm.
I was like, and plus, but I was doing I was good, but my knees and
Mhm.
shoulders.
Yes.
I dislocated both my shoulders, both
Mm.
my ankles.
Mm.
I tore up my knee just a little bit. So I was like, nah, I'm gonna go
Let's
into
sit this
I'm gonna
one
do this
out,
theater.
yes. Let's focus on
So
the acting, yeah.
and when I did that, it was just one after another, and I felt even though I was doing that, I also felt like I was making history because from freshman year to my junior year, I was the black actor there that was actually doing theater.
Really? Mm.
Most of everybody was behind the scenes doing behind the scene work. I was actually doing it,
Mm.
and each time I was going on stage, I was developing and developing, and like I was developing the love of it because I literally got lost in the words. I literally got, fixated on the action. And then, when it comes to doing it live, oh man, because you don't see anybody in the stands. It's just you and the lights and you and that person or you and the group. And like I just did my thing. I got lost in it and I was like, oh yeah, I love this. I love this. And then but I started to get better and better. And my senior year, I managed to open and close the show my senior
Mm.
year. And when and that in itself changed because it it actually the I was in a relationship and she broke up with me. And that breakup was the best thing ever because when she told me that it was over, I was stuck by myself, real, real quiet, and I had no idea what to do.
Mm.
But what I looked over and I saw a folder with the script in it of the play, and I didn't even sleep that night. I I I went through that script from top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom, till the sun came up. And then when we went to go practice on the days, I would practice with the crew. I would just I would do the once I learned the blocking. Once I learned the blocking, I started doing running my lines with the blocking when nobody is there. I was it was actually like I simulated everything myself, and I did it every day all the way up until
Wow.
show day. And when I mean I was Michael for 2 months. I was Michael for 2 months. I didn't feel like Fred. I didn't feel like anything. And I remember I remember the first show. Um, I was nervous, but I also was excited at the same time because my aunt was there, and I got to the top of the steps, and the lights shined on me. I started my lines, and it was flowing, but I locked eyes with my mom, and I was like,
Mm.
it's crazy because like it's dark, So I was like, how did I lock eyes with my mom? So I got shook, and I paused for a minute, and then I came back and did my thing from start to finish. And you talk about a standing ovation. He's talking about, saying just everybody just clapping. I was just like, oh, this feels so good. This feels so
Mm.
good. And
Yes.
I remember going backstage. My mom had this big grin, just big. She was just, you know, and my aunt was like, "You messed up, didn't you?" And I was like, Auntie, you wasn't supposed to see that, but she was like, "You did great, loved it," and that was the
And it was
that
up
was the
from there.
change.
It was a
It
start.
was up for me.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And
Oh
so
yeah.
how did that transform into, film?
Oh man, how it transformed into film after high school. I mean college. Um, I really was trying to really figure out what was the next step and how to get into film. And a buddy of mine that I went to college with, he I inspired him to do acting, but he wanted to do it in film, and he actually knew where to go and what to do. I didn't. I had the tools, but didn't know no direction.
Where to go? Mhm.
He was just starting, but he knew exactly where to go. So he was like, take these. There's an acting class in Columbus. Saying, check this out. You should go. And I remember, um, back being back home, and I drove to Columbus, took the class, and big up to JW Myers, man. He was he's still dope to this day. A nice guy, very smooth and calm spoken. And I remember going into the first day of class, he was shocked. He was actually
Mm.
shocked by my improv skills and the way I read. He was like, "Oh, so you really got some chops," because the people that was in his class was kind of on the verge of being either you were a strict beginner or you were actually like right there,
Mhm.
and I was kind of in the middle. And he was like, "You got some chops. I like that." And I started like each class I was growing every day, and I remember I told him I couldn't. I think I lost my job at that time, and I told him that I couldn't come to the class anymore. And this is why, like, I love JW to this day, is that he pulled me to the side and he was like, you know, I'm sorry about your job, but I really want you to continue to be in this class. You don't have to pay me. Don't tell nobody,
Mm.
but you don't have to pay me. Just keep coming, man. Just keep coming. And I did. And
Wow. Wow.
when I did, I showed him my gratitude by showing up every single day, because
Yes.
you don't have like that's not just you know a gesture. He saw something in me, and at that particular time I didn't see that he saw something in me. I just knew that it was an opportunity to just keep doing and keep going, and that's what I did. And he he put so much into me and was like, "Man, you're good. You
Mhm. Mhm.
you make it look very very easy." And I know you're not. He was like, he even put me on the spot. He was like, "I know you're not working right now. I know you're not working, and I know that's a big deal for you, and that's something you want to work. We all need to work." But he was like, "Do not forget about this."
Right.
because you are gifted. You have a gift. And out of all the things that I ever done, football, massage therapy, drawing, my artwork and everything like that, nobody has told me that I had a gift in it but this.
Yes.
And, you know, especially at that particular time, I was so work driven that I like, yes, I love doing this, but I need work. So I was like, thanks JW, but I got to work. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I would show up to class and just do my thing. And there was an opportunity. 2013, he was like, I got a movie and I
Mhm.
want you to be a part of it. I want you to audition. And I was like, shoot, I audition, cool. I drove 3 hours to from Dayton to Wheeling, Virginia to do this audition. And I was nervous because, what I'm saying, it was a live audition and I'm just completely nervous, but I had the lines in my head. I'm going over, going over, going over, going over. And I got in there and he was like, all right, see what you got. And I delivered and it was like, that was amazing. I loved it.
Wow. Yes.
And he told me right then, he was like, you got it. And you want to talk about the most exciting moment ever? I was like,
Yeah, I can imagine. What movie was this?
it's called Christmas Tree Miracle.
Okay.
It was a Christmas film, and he gave all the money and the proceeds to autism because I do believe it's
Oh,
either her daughter or his
yeah,
daughter
that's
or her son
beautiful.
had, and he wanted to do it with that in mind. And I that time was a great time, and it was humbling also because not only was I an actor in it, well, it was a small part. That it was definitely a small part, but that part, showing up, I told my since I wasn't working, I was like, I'm gonna show up and I'm like, hey, if you need some help in the behind the scenes, saying,
Right.
let
Right.
me know. And he was like, hey, come up earlier, saying you can hold the boom, you can hold the light, you can, saying, and being being there behind the scenes was so motivating because everything that I was doing and the people that were trained and actually had a lot of experience, they were what they were doing. I was just like, I could do that. I'm already doing that.
Right.
And this guy, his name is Kevin Sizemore, a very very well known actor in LA. He's been in on Weeds. He's been on Transformers. He's been on a ton of things, and I managed to. I had a scene with him. I had to kick him out of I had to kick him out of a hotel, and and the first take, I was real nervous. I'm stuttering a little bit, and JW was like, "Hey, come here." He was like, "Look, give me give me some gangster, give me some hood, give me
Mm.
some, like I know you're nervous, but just what I'm saying, it's just like we in class. Just don't worry about it." And then Kevin was like, I know I'm the lead in this, but this is your scene.
Mm.
This is your scene. This is your time. Own it, use it, and let's work. And after that, something just clicked on. I did
And
my
that was it.
thing,
That was it.
and that was it. And he was like, nothing is over until they say cut. So when you're walking away, you look at me. You give me the most dirtiest look, and then go down the steps. I was like, all right, cool. I did my lines, and then I took one step, and I looked back, and I gave him a look like this, and then he said cut. He was like, I love it, and I was just like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, here we
So
go.
yeah,